Okay, this is the Embracing Joy podcast, and I'm Dr. Magda Machet, and I have a very special guest with me today, Dr. Erica Bove. Did I pronounce it correctly?
You got it.
Okay, Dr. Erica Bove, and I'm so excited to have our guest here today because of her particular specialty in reproductive endocrinology. She's a fertility specialist, and this is a very stressful process. It can be the fertility discussion or struggling with infertility, especially for high achieving career women who may have delayed even having that type of discussion, or who may be going through treatments and they may feel alone or not having someone that they can talk to about this, which can cause a lot of emotional distress. So this is such an important topic during Women's Health Week. So I'm very happy to have Dr. Erica Bove to talk about fertility health and joy in the journey of infertility and the fertility journey in general. So let me give a quick introduction to Dr. Erica Bove. So she is a double board certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist. She's currently a physician at the University of Vermont, and she's a certified life coach through the Life Coach School. She's also the founder of Love and Science, Thriving Through Infertility. And I love that it's thriving through infertility. She has a keen interest in marrying the evidence-based approach with also the intuitive knowing in the context of a trusting relationship with her coaching clients. She empowers professional women to build their families with confidence and self-compassion. Her overall mission is to heal and support the healers to create a legacy that she's proud of. So I could go into further detail about where she went to medical school. So she did go to University of Notre Dame Medical School, and her
undergrad.
Oh, undergrad, excuse me.
Yeah,
undergrad was University of Notre Dame, and her medical school was University of Vermont, and her residency was New York Presbyterian Hospital, and she did and Columbia Fellowship.
Yeah, Columbia was the residence.
And then fellowship at University of Michigan.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of
education, lots and lots of education, which is so important. That's why you have that evidence-based approach, because you're very well trained. Because a lot of people can say that they coach women during this time, maybe from their personal experience, but you also have the clinical and medical experience, as well as you're a woman who, I don't know about personal, but you may have had that experience as well. So you're able to have that full range approach, so.
Thank you.
Great. So I love that you were able to come into coaching women during this difficult time, or it can be a challenging time, and so that they can find more joy and they can not just survive, but thrive during the journey. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. So we start our podcast after the introduction with a quick improv game, which is a warm up, just to see if we can get our minds on the same page, like a kind of a playful page. So don't think too much about what you're going to say. Just say the first thing that comes on your mind, and I'll say the first thing that comes on my mind on the count of 3, and then we keep saying a word until you say a word, I say a word, the words then, and then we figure out how the words relate to each other for the next word that we say. Okay? All right.
All right.
Okay. All right. So on the count of 3, ready?
Yes.
3. Okay, we can look at each other. Or we can keep our eyes open or closed, whatever we prefer. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Rainbow.
Ultrasound.
Rainbow and ultrasound. Okay. How do we put together rainbow and ultrasound? Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Baby.
Colors.
Okay. Baby and colors. Okay. Baby and colors. Okay. Ready? Something that matches that brings the 2 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Crayons.
Outfit.
Outfits and crayons. Okay. All right. Ready? Outfit and crayons. Okay. One, two, three. Dress.
Messy.
Messy dress. Okay. Messy and dress. All right. Maybe ready?
Yep.
One, two, three. Food.
Toddler.
Food and toddler. Oh, yeah, you're right. Your toddler was a good one. Okay. Food and toddler. Food and toddler.
Yep.
So something that will connect those two. That's kind of fun. One, two, three. Chicken nuggets.
Snacks.
Snacks and chicken nuggets. Yeah, they relate. They relate. They relate. We're pretty much there. Nugget and snacks. I think we might have to go broader with that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're very close, so I think
Yeah.
we can count that. I think we can I
Yeah.
think we can
Maybe
count.
like lunch or dinner or something,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, do you wanna keep going?
messy mealtime. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, it's up to you. Okay, sure, let's try one more time. Let's try one more and then we okay. So, snack and chicken nugget, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Alright. Alright, pick. One, two, three. Lunch.
Food.
Lunch and food. We're pretty much there. Okay,
Okay.
that's where we're gonna wrap it up there. So we were pretty close. Pretty close. That was a great one. Okay. So we're in the food section. We're thinking about food today. So Dr. Bove, tell me more about how you got into coaching and how you picked that name, Thriving Through Infertility. Can you tell me more about that and how it
Yeah.
relates to embracing joy in that process? Because you're not just surviving, you're kind of thriving and whole during the process.
Yes, absolutely. So I will say I have drank the coaching Kool-Aid, as they say. And my first entry into coaching was actually as a newly single parent. I have two children myself, and I did not expect to get divorced, but I found myself in a situation where I was getting divorced and I had two little kids who were 3 and 5. And I felt like, as a parent, especially as a single parent, I just did not know what I was doing.
Mhm,
And I will also say, like, now I know that my kids both have neurodiversity, like, it makes a lot more sense that I was like, I mean, all parents struggle, but then I think I was like, "Oh, why me?" Like, not why me, but like, "Why can't I do this better?" Right? And around that time, somebody I knew in my social circles was offering free parent coaching. Basically, she was training to become a coach herself, and I was between jobs, so I didn't have an income stream, and she was like, I will coach you for free if you're willing and committed to, like, give it your all. And I was like, that sounds great. So we did 5 months of intense coaching together. It
mhm,
was fantastic. I realized that it wasn't just about parenting, but it was about like my whole life and my relationships and my expectations and just how I looked at things actually, because there's so much about life that is like how we frame it and how we are oriented towards it.
mhm,
So then, once I did 5 months with her, I was like, "This is so great." I
mhm,
decided to do relationship coaching. Like I mentioned, I was, newly divorced, and
mhm,
it really made sense that I would try not to repeat patterns of the past so that I could
mhm,
have better relationships moving forward. And so that's when I started working with another coach, Dr. Sun. I did relationship coaching with her, which was so valuable to me. And that's really when I started to think to myself, you know what? I think I want to become a coach. I think I can like help other people to improve their lives in the same way that I have been helped.
mhm,
And so that's when I entered the life coach school. It's a 6-month program. It was rigorous. There was like night classes, and oral exams, and all sorts of things. But I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Kind of like the attitude I take towards
mhm,
everything in life. And it was wonderful. Like I met all these colleagues who I'm still friends with. I, learned how to use coaching models in a way that gives people space and helps them solve their own problems. Like as a female physician, oftentimes I'm in like fix it mode.
mhm,
Coaching is very different. It's like, actually, you have the wisdom inside yourself, and
mhm,
I'm just like mirroring it or bringing it out of you in a way that makes sense to you and
mhm,
helps you move forward. So I decided to become a fertility coach. Well, I decided to become a coach, and I kind of had an idea I wanted to do fertility coaching. I also joined Dr. Kavitha Sun's team for about a year as her head coach, which was also a tremendously valuable experience. And then I just kept getting this tug, like, "Erica, like, you want to do this for the world. You got to do this. Like, you've got the skills, you've got the passion. Like, nobody else has married these 2 things before, like, fertility specialist and fertility coaching, and you know that, like, all these people are not being served right now, and you
Mhm,
can do it." So that's when I decided to really go into it full force. I made
mhm,
my LLC. Business bank account, like all the steps you do when you're creating a business. And I will say, like, now I have a really solid client base. We have support groups on Friday nights. And even last night before I went to bed, I got this really touching email from a client I coached about how much I'm helping her with her mindset and to feel free. She said, "You're helping me to feel free and
mhm,
align with my values." And I just like, every time I think about it, I'm like, this is why I'm here, is to help
mhm,
people to feel empowered, to make choices that are right for them, and to support them along the way.
mhm. I love that. I love that. And you have such a unique journey and specialty in this field because you're the first reproductive endocrinologist and fertility coach that I, you know, have met, but that's not saying a lot. But it is such there's not even that many reproductive endocrinologists, right?
No.
So it's a narrow sample, and then you put yourself in a much more narrow sample, such so specialized, and there's such a need. There's a lot of women who are having these challenges and may not know who they can contact or where they can go. Yeah, so it's a great that you are stepping into your mission and doing that wonderful work of
Thank you.
helping many women not just survive but thrive through this process. So
And
that's
that's exactly it, and that's where that second half, so my business is called Love and Science because it takes love and science to help people conceive and build their families. And then thriving through infertility. Thriving has been on my mind ever since training. I thought, like, we're in survival mode, and then you finish training and you're like, "Oh, everything's gonna get so much better now."
mhm,
And what I realized is that that's not necessarily the case.
mhm,
And sometimes things actually get worse once you're out of training. And in
mhm,
some ways, sometimes they get better, sometimes they get worse. And we have
mhm,
new struggles. And much of the struggle that female physicians has, one in four of us has infertility. And I thought to myself, this is about thriving. Like, I was thinking about, today and what we're going to talk about and sort of what wisdom I have to impart. I was
mhm,
really struck by Viktor Frankl. He has this quote about like suffering. He's a Holocaust survivor, for maybe some listeners who don't know about him.
mhm,
And one thing that he said that's been often quoted is, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And so I
mhm,
think about this man who truly survived the Holocaust. He kept the vision of his wife in his mind, that love that he had for her. And we have more agency than we think.
mhm,
Sometimes we feel stuck. Sometimes we feel we're the victim. Sometimes we feel like we have no choices, but that is just not true. And coaching is what helps us access that agency and that power so that we can feel better in the process.
mhm,
And, not that everything's going to be positive all the time, but it's about having that like equal measure of grief and sadness and joy and hope and love, like all at the same time.
mhm. Right, right. I love that you brought in that quote because joy is something that it's a gift regardless of our circumstances, right? So
Yes.
it's not a fleeting emotion like happiness, maybe like you have happiness one day, but joy is that consistent. It can be consistent regardless of hard times if you embrace it and know that of course this you're going through a challenging time, but there's still life, you're still alive, there's still things to be joyous about, there's still birds chirping, there's still
Yeah.
beautiful flowers, there's still so much beauty in the world and in yourself. And
Yes.
to know that you can enjoy it and appreciate it even if you were in something like horrible things can happen, and they do happen, but get to determine your outlook on it, right? To a certain
Right.
extent. Yeah, to
Right.
a
And how to
certain
respond, how to
how to
respond.
respond.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to determine your response to it. And I love that you're able to help so many women not stay in that, they go through it with someone because we're not alone. But I think fertility is something that's so taboo, especially for physicians, because physicians don't like to be patients. Not saying that they don't
No.
like to be patients, they just haven't been patients because there's a lot of ableism in medicine. So, there's a lot of denial of sleeping, right? So you're not able to sleep for that long because you were up studying, or you have to work 24-hour shifts, or you kind of lose touch with your body in certain ways because of the vigorous training.
Yeah.
So you feel that you are invincible. And then when you find out that you know you're human too, just like everyone else, you can be a patient too if you have that can happen as well. It's a much harder concept to grasp for a lot of physicians that they need help too, but the help is there. Help is there. There's other physicians that can relate, and there's Dr. Erica Bove, of course, especially if you're struggling with infertility, because she's a wonderful coach that will help you thrive during this time and not just be in it alone. So I love that you touched on that, because joy, thriving, it's independent of circumstances. People can go through challenging times, but it's something you're supposed to go through as best as possible and get to the other side, and get to more peace. Yeah.
That's right, and learn the lessons that we're supposed to learn here on this earth, and the way it goes, at least in my experience, is that the universe provides me an opportunity, and either I learn the lesson or I don't, and, if I learn it, then I move on, right? I embrace that, maybe I help other people with that, but if I don't learn that lesson, then sometimes I am sort of shown other opportunities to learn that lesson again, and so it's like, "Okay, am I gonna take the
Receipts.
fast road to this lesson, or I'm gonna keep going in circles here?" And that's why we lean on each other because we can't do this alone. We need to mirror that beauty for each other. Sometimes we can't see our own beauty, right? I loved
Mhm,
that you said it's not just the birds chirping, it's the beauty in ourselves. But infertility can be such a dark, hopeless time. And sometimes we need other people to say, like, there are reasons to keep going, objective reasons to keep going, not just this like pie in the sky false hope, but like
mhm,
you are young, you have good egg reserve, you have embryos frozen, whatever it is. Like, I think we have to look and focus our attention on what actually is working, which is why I mean, I've heard you talk about gratitude before, you
mhm,
know,
mhm,
on your videos, your live videos. And it's really about like, what am I choosing to focus my attention on at this given moment in time? Because I think the gratitude practice that helps us be authentically grateful. So then when we see other things in our life that actually are going well, we notice them. Whereas
mhm,
we might have just been completely like immune or blind to those before.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's so important. Definitely a component of changing your perspective, because when things happen negative, that's a lot of time that's the first thing we want to think about, and maybe the
Yeah.
only thing we want to think about. Only, right? So taking
Yeah.
that perspective and kind of pulling back and looking at all the multiple things that are going well and that you're
Yes.
grateful for. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, honoring the feelings. I mean, that makes
Yeah.
sense,
I'm not
we
saying, yeah,
can't ig
ignore.
yeah, we can't ignore the feelings, we need to create space and, carve out time, even learn how to feel our feelings because many of us just, like, I don't know, that wasn't in my grade school curriculum was feeling feelings, so, it's one of those things where we can even learn this as adults, and it's so powerful because once we can, like, recognize and name our feelings, once we can learn how to feel them and let them go, then they don't have the same power over us, and they also don't come out in strange ways either. So I think there's a ton of like grief and regret and hopelessness and despair. And if we don't, the only way through grief is through grief, right? And so it takes bravery, it takes courage, it takes community, all of those things. But it's like like I said, in equal measure. So,
Mhm,
joy is our birthright. And so it's like,
mhm,
I deserve to savor this cup of hot tea. I
mhm,
deserve to take this hot bath and just feel how good it feels in my body and how my body can respond in that way, It's one of those things where I think that if we're not even aware of what brings us joy, it's harder to
mhm.
create those things, and so what I tell my clients is I actually have them make, like, a joy list of things
Yeah.
they can pull out on a rainy day and be like, "I'm gonna do one of these things right now," and maybe even, like and I'm not even gonna, like, talk about the fertility journey, I'm just gonna, like, focus on going to the botanical gardens, looking at the flowers, and then that's it for today. Like, whatever that is, because sometimes, like, it's hard to come up with I do think that joy involves some spontaneity, but I also think that we need to create opportunities for joy so that there is that space so that joyful things can happen.
No, I definitely agree with that. I have a joy list in my phone of things
Oh, do you?
of
What
the things that
could you
bring me
share?
joy.
I
I
would love
also
to know what's
have
on your joy list.
a joy list. Okay, karaoke is like number I love karaoke, so, like, karaoke is up there. What else is up there? I put my favorite cakes and sweets, like, because you forget what you particular what's your favorite things that bring you joy. Oh, of course, spending time with my dog. But I don't have it open, and it may take me a while, so I won't go through there
That's
now because
okay.
and that's why I have it there because I don't remember those things, right? So I don't remember all the time in the moment what may bring me the most joy, whether it's but I do, like, I have meditation. I love to meditate, do my
Same.
meditation and devotional.
Yep,
So I do that every morning, but
yep.
I have my little everyday joy list in my phone for when I need it. Like in times of like a stressful time or let me listen to my favorite song, which is an upbeat song that I may dance to, in my room. I have a disco lamp that I just keep and then I'll play the disco lamp and I'll dance in my room. Yeah, so I have my coping mechanism of what brings me joy. And what brings me joy is not the same as what brings another person joy. So it's unique to you what brings you joy or happiness. And just having that gratitude and is part of it, which helps a lot
Yeah.
too. And
I
it's
do hear Go ahead, Dr. Makta.
yeah, I was gonna say also in difficult times, like when you're actually really, really going through stress or really, really feeling down, it's really hard to remember what brings you joy.
That's
It
right.
can be very, very challenging to remember or even you may feel guilty for doing things that bring you joy, but of course, that can be at different levels, like, but depression can start that way where you might feel like, oh, you're taking a nice bath, bubble bath. Oh, why am I don't deserve to take a nice bath. I'm not worthy of this. I just need to, people are suffering out there and I can take care of them, but I'm taking a bath. Or, when you're a physician and you're in that caregiver role, it can be, you can lose joy because you're caring for so many people in their time of need and suffering that you may
Mhm,
feel guilty being lighthearted or happy because you care for people that are suffering. So
right.
that's part of, I guess, compassion fatigue, which you describe talking about like self compassion for women physicians that are going through infertility because they may struggle with that, remembering what brings them joy. So having that list for times like that and realizing that, you
Mhm.
know, of course I'm deserving of a hot bath and a a hot book
Oh, I
and
mean,
a
I will say though, I'm so glad you brought that up, that deserving, because I think that's the rate limiting step for most of us in terms of even getting to that joy. I
Mhm,
think especially when it comes to infertility, the world gets so small and so focused, and it's like, I need to Google every study, I need to focus on this. And it's like that I'm not even deserving to, experience something good in the context of all of this. And so
mhm,
I think one thing I do actually with my clients a lot is like kind of bring them back to who they are. And whether it's like some people really resonate with a child of God, some people resonate as like a droplet of love in the universe,
mhm,
whatever somebody's worldview is, I meet them there. But I think that idea that we're part of something that's greater than ourselves, that
mhm,
we are beautiful just as we are, that we don't need some external result to validate our existence. And
mhm,
so I think especially for women professionals, and I work with a lot of women physicians as well, it's like we have to reconnect with that deserving, because we've told ourselves we deprive ourselves. That's how we got to where we are. Many of us is like you
mhm,
said, deprived ourselves of sleep, deprived ourselves of social connections. Like we think that sacrifice is the path to reward, and we have to remind ourselves like maybe that worked for us at one point in our lives, but like that doesn't serve us anymore. We are deserving of all the goodness. We are deserving to rest. One mantra of mine that I love is "It is safe to rest," because sometimes I truly forget that. And then
mhm,
that self-compassion, like, it sounds so easy in practice. Oh, yeah, like, we just need to be more self-compassionate. Like,
mhm.
many of us don't even know where to start. It's like, wait, because there's 3 components of self-compassion, and I use Kristen Neff's material a lot because I just respect her so much, and
Mhm,
her stuff just resonates. It's a very kind of Buddhist way to think about it, and she talks about there's 3 pillars of mindful self-compassion. One is common humanity. So that's
mhm,
that concept that, like, anybody in my situation would be feeling this way. So say you're, going through the fertility process, you just did an IVF cycle, it's not going so well, and you're really down in the dumps, like, anybody after investing that much time and energy and, like, would be feeling that way. So just
mhm,
like normalizing that this is like a typical reaction to a really awful situation, like
mhm,
that's really helpful. And then the other 2 components are self-kindness, which is the opposite of self-judgment. So many of us have that inner critic. We judge ourselves all the time, like, "Oh, it's because you're, 20 pounds overweight. Oh, it's
mhm,
because, you ate that taco last Tuesday. Oh, it's because you were in the OR for 14 hours." Like, whatever it is, like, we blame ourselves. And so when we actually be kind to ourselves, like we would treat our good friend and drop the self-judgment, that's when a lot of the healing happens. And then the third component is mindfulness. So, like, doing those things that bring us joy, that get us into that space, into our bodies, that's it. But I will say that many of us don't think we're deserving of self compassion. We think it's like weak or, that we're going to lose our edge or that we're like self indulgent. And so, a lot of what I talk to clients about is like what self compassion is not. Because I think until we can actually engage with it and in it and let it work its magic on ourselves, we have to understand that like it's not what we previously thought it is, and like this is actually the pathway to freedom and being grounded in our bodies and being like accepting of
mhm.
whatever comes our way and ourselves, accepting of ourselves as human beings.
I love that. Yeah, definitely. It's so important and such a huge component of, you know, getting back to thriving in life. When you're your biggest critic, you won't even enjoy the things that you wrote on your list if you're criticizing yourself and not compassionate for yourself. So I love
Yeah.
that you're able to help so many women physicians with that,
Mm.
or professionals with that. So I have some wrap up questions for
Yes,
you.
absolutely.
Yes. So who is a model of joy in your life and why?
Wow, I have so many, and it's really hard to choose. I think
Mhm,
when I think of joy, the first person who comes to my mind is my good friend Rachel. And I met her in my divorce. So again, talk about like a context that was the overall very dark period in my life. And
mhm,
I will tell you, Dr. Magda, she was wearing this like she's an artist, this beautiful rainbow
mhm,
necklace with like these big like balls of color on her neck. And I just like I don't know why, like it was, when you meet somebody and it's like kind of like this like telepathic moment. Like we met at a evening picnic in Michigan because we were both there at the time,
mhm,
and, like, I just knew it was an instant connection, and so not only was her, like, outfit colorful, but her personality is colorful. Like, she finds joy in the smallest of things. We could be sitting by a pool and eating chicken nuggets, and it would be, like, the most delicious chicken nuggets you've ever had. I think she understands like nurturing and comfort and positivity when it's called for. Like I said, not always called for.
mhm,
She is an authentic human and she just, like I said, she's just very spontaneous and loving and kind and colorful. Like everything about her is colorful and she makes my life lighter. And I love her laugh. Like that always brings me joy even to think about her laugh. And I think about how we both got each other through such a dark time. We've both emerged on the other side. I think we can both see how much life better is for each of us in many ways. And I'm just so thankful that she came into my life when she did.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. So my other question is, if you were baking a cake of joy, what are the top 3 ingredients?
This is a tough one, my friend. It really is tough.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm,
think, love and joy, like joy is one of my core values. Like it was
mhm,
great when you asked me to be on your podcast or your
mhm,
your YouTube live because I thought like joy is one of my pillars. Like I do things in my life. Like if I am trying to make a decision, I think to myself, what would joy do? Like, is
mhm,
this a joyful choice? Is this not? And if it's a joyful choice, I usually do it. If
mhm,
it's not going to bring me joy, I mean, obviously we all have to clean the toilet sometimes, but like if it's truly a big life choice that I know is not going to bring me joy, I really have to think hard about whether it serves me or not, right? So
mhm,
joy is like a guiding pillar in my own life. So this is like a really high stakes question. I think that love has to be a key ingredient
okay.
because when we are joyful, we are loving ourselves, we are loving the moment, we are loving, for me, often other people, nature, the universe, God, like whatever we think. And so I think that when I experience joy, it's this beautiful expression of the highest love
Mhm.
and also connecting with something or someone. Like we can have joy with a pet, we can have joy on a nature trail, we can have joy, but there has to be like this element of this shared experience. Like for me, one of my favorite things is like biking with my loved ones. Like that is so much fun.
Wow.
Or let's see, I was at a concert, this weekend with some of my favorite people, and, like, even the connection of some of the people I didn't even know in that room, there was
Mhm.
this, like, powerful moment of shared connection and love and joy, right?
Mhm.
So, I think love and connection, and for me, there's also an element of adventure and spontaneity. So, it's interesting because I tend to be, like, fairly type A, I'm getting better about planning on scheduled time, but, like, if it's left to my own devices, I tend to, like, want to be fairly productive, and so I tend to, like, book my days and not leave much room for, like, extra things. But, like, last week, I was driving and I noticed this, like, man waving, like, goodbye to his little daughter on the bus, and, like, that was the cutest thing. And then I was somewhere else in public and I, like, saw the little baby toes coming out from this little car seat. And, and I thought to myself, like, I can only experience this because these are spontaneous moments and I'm slowing down enough. I know that's a fourth ingredient, but, like, slowing down enough to appreciate these moments that otherwise might pass me by. So
I
I
love
would say
I love that.
love, connection, adventure, and just having space.
Space. Yeah, it's also part of that mindfulness that you were saying. It's just, taking in your surroundings because when you're so focused on the next thing you have to do, you don't have time for taking in the space and seeing the joy that's around you, like, maybe a little kid that's waving at everybody saying hello, or whatever that may be, when you're so focused on the next thing that you have to do. I love that you taking time to,
Yeah,
be aware of the surroundings, that, joy is just out there, out there saying hello, not that far
yeah,
away, but you're not mind you
yeah.
can not be mindful of it. Yeah.
Like, I will say too, like, I mean, I am not inherently good at this. This is something I aspire to, right? Because I value joy, and so it's not like my free square on the bingo card. Like, this is something I'm like, okay, like, am I my intention is joy, so how am I doing that? Like, I think we have to embody these moments because otherwise they just pass us by. So, like, one example is today I was at work and I don't know, I think I shared a little bit about my schedule. So I work in Vermont for a week, doing my fertility clinical job, and then I go back to my home in Albany, New York, and I do like more coaching and have a little bit more flexibility during those weeks. And so I come like every other week, but it's beautiful. Like today I arrived here and I haven't been here in 9 days in Vermont. And, like, I had, like, 4 staff members be like, "It is so good to see you. We missed you. How was your
Mhm.
week?" And, like, those are moments where I could have just, like, blown it off and been like, "Oh, whatever, like, they don't really mean that," or whatever, but, like, when people are genuinely excited to see you and again, you feel that love, you feel that connection, you feel that moment that is, like, authentic and real, you're like, "Wow, like, I make an impact on them. I make their life better. They like working with me. I like working with them. Like, let's call that out and celebrate it because that's not always the case, and we've got
Mhm.
a good thing. So let's, like, take that moment, even if it's just, like, 30 seconds to pause and savor, like, "Wow, I'm
Mhm.
grateful that I can have this experience with my colleagues," and it's in all the directions, you know? So, I think sometimes it's, like, not having exact expectations for what it looks like, but
Mhm.
just, like, when something feels good, to just notice and be thankful for that thing.
Definitely, just savor it. I love that terminology.
Yeah.
So savor that cake of joy when those moments arrives. This was a wonderful talk. It's been great talking to you, Dr. Bove.
Thank
And
you.
how can the audience contact you? If they're looking for a fertility coach that will help them through their journey, they've been struggling with these things. What's the best location for them to contact you?
Absolutely. So my website is the most comprehensive place.
Mhm.
It's loveandsciencefertility.com.
Mhm.
If you're listening, you're like, "Oh my goodness, this is, my experience. I'm going through this right now. I really need some extra support." You can book a
Mhm.
free discovery call with me to see if working together would be a good fit. I also just launched a podcast a couple of months ago, and so I am gaining steam, and you can
Mhm.
sort of binge listen to me now if that's your cup of tea. A lot of
Mhm.
people just like to look forward to my podcast coming out every Thursday. So that's also called Love and Science Fertility. And then there's the more obvious like social media like Instagram and Facebook. I'm active there as well. So I would love to hear from you. And also, I'd love to hear some comments about this, talk we've had tonight because I'm sure people have some thoughts about it. It'd be nice to keep this conversation going.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's a great conversation. If you all enjoyed this conversation, look out for my upcoming podcast, which is the Embracing Joy podcast, where I'll have a lot of more talks like this. And thank you again, Dr. Bove.
Thank you, Dr. Majed.
Wonderful. All right. Yeah, definitely leave your comments. Post a comment, write to us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode and any future questions that you may have. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.